naman sa kahabaan ng highway sa Bangkok, Thailand ang isang nasusunog na bus.
Paano kaya ito nabalot ng apoy at ano na ang nangyari sa mga pasaherong sakay nito? Aalamin po natin yan mula sa mga detalye ng balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alagaw Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong Martes ng gabi.
Mas maraming Chinese warships na mataan sa West Philippine Sea.
Pagsumite ng Certificate of Candidacy para sa 2025 midterm elections, umarangkada na.
3 patay sa pananaksak sa bisperas ng National Day ng China.
Hindi bababa sa 200 katao patay sa matinding pagbaha sa Nepal.
At Washington lumagda ng kontrata kasama ang Boeing para mag-produce ng armas. Inihayag ng Philippine Navy na mas dumami pa ang mga namataang Chinese warships sa West Philippine Sea o WPS.
Batay naman sa monitoring ng Philippine Navy mula September 24 hanggang 30, may naobserbahan na 17 People's Liberation Army Navy warships ng China sa ilang features ng WPS. Mas marami ito kumpara sa nakaraang na-monitor na 16 na warships. 5 sa mga ito ay nasa Escoda Shoal, 2 naman ang nakaistasyon sa Ayungin Shoal, Pag-asa Islands at Iroquois Reef, at 1 sa Bajo de Masinloc, Parola, Likas, Lawak, Panata Island at Rizal Reef. Mapapansin na karamihan sa mga Chinese warship ay nakaistasyon sa Escoda Shoal kung saan may barko ng Philippine Coast Guard na nagpapatrolya kapalit ng na-pull out na BRP Teresa Magbanwa. Ang Escoda Shoal o kilala rin sa tawag na Sabina Shoal ay matatagpuan sa layong 75 nautical miles mula Palawan na bahagi naman ng 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone ng Pilipinas.
Inihayag ng Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources o BFAR na pinatamaan ng isang Chinese Navy warship ng high-intensity laser ang eroplano ng ahensya ng 3 beses. Ayon sa ulat ng BFAR, naganap ang insidente noong Biyernes habang nagsasagawa ng maritime surveillance ang Cessna patrol aircraft ng ahensya sa WPS. Dito na po namataan ng crew ng eroplano ng BFAR ang isang Chinese Coast Guard vessel na may bow number 21555 at 2 UBay-class missile boats ng China na binubuntutan ng mga ito ang 2 barko ng Pilipinas. Makalipas ang ilang minuto ay pinatamaan na ng laser ng Chinese warship ang BFAR aircraft. Nag-issue naman ang piloto ng radio challenge sa barko ng China na ihinto ang panunutok ng laser, subalit hindi naman tumugon ang mga ito.
Umarangkada na ang paghahain ng mga Certificate of Candidacy o COCs para sa 2025 midterm elections sa kabila ng pagsalanta ng Bagyong Julian sa Northern Luzon. Ayon sa Commission on Elections o COMELEC, walang naging aberya ang paghahain ng COCs sa iba pang lugar sa Pilipinas. Sinabi naman ni COMELEC Chairman George Garcia, may otoridad ang kanilang local offices na magsususpinde ng COC filing kung masama ang panahon, may kalamidad o kaguluhan.
Ginawa na po natin yan, yung barangay and SK elections na kung saan ay pinayagan po natin ang extension ng filing doon sa mga lugar na binagyo.
Samantala, sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao o BARM, nagtalaga ang COMELEC ng satellite filing site sa Maguindanao. Ito ay para maiwasan ang pagkakaroon ng kaguluhan sa lugar. Ayon kay Garcia, kasama yan sa mga aral na natutunan nila sa nangyaring Maguindanao Massacre taong 2009. Tiniyak ni Garcia na may sapat na seguridad sa mga venues kung saan nagaganap ang paghahain ng mga COC.
Tinukoy ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas o BSP na posibleng bumagal pa ang inflation rate sa buwan ng Setyembre ngayong taon. Ayon sa projection ng BSP, posibleng bumaba sa pagitan ng 2% hanggang 2.8% ang inflation rate para ngayong buwan. Mas mababa po ito kaysa sa 3.3% na naitala noong buwan ng Agosto. Samantala, nakatakda namang ilabas ng Philippine Statistics Authority ang opisyal na inflation rate para sa buwan ng Setyembre sa araw ng Biyernes.
Inihayag ng Department of Agriculture o DA na walang bigla ang pagtaas sa presyo ng bigas sa kabila ng epekto ng bagyong Julian, gayon din ang hindi na ipadadalang mga imported na bigas sa Pilipinas. Paliwanag ng ahensya, may magandang supply ng bigas ang Pilipinas. Ngunit tiniyak naman ni Agriculture Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa na mahigpit nilang binabantayan ang epekto ng bagyong Julian sa mga rehiyon ng Ilocos, Cagayan Valley at sa ilang bahagi ng Cordillera Administrative Region. Umaasa rin ang opisyalis na hindi magiging malawak ang pinsala ng bagyo sa sektor ng agrikultura. Nilinaw naman ni de Mesa na walang epekto sa retail price ng bigas ang mga kargamentong hindi pa nailalabas sa mga daungan. Anya, karamihan sa naiulat na overstaying na shipping containers sa mga daungan ay nakuha na.
Ipinahayag ng Department of Agriculture ang pangangailangan para sa agarang pag-aproba ng African Swine Fever o ASF vaccines para sa komersyal na distribusyon bago matapos ang taon. Iniulat ng Bureau of Animal Industry na ang mga barangay na apektado ng ASF sa bansa ay tumaas mula 472 hanggang 524 sa loob lamang ng 16 na araw nitong buwan ng Setyembre. Ito ay sa kabila ng mahigpit na biosecurity measures at patuloy na pagbababakuna ng kontrolado ng gobyerno. Binigyan diin ni Agriculture Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa ang kahalagahan ng agarang pag-aproba sa komersyal na distribusyon ng nasabing bakuna. Ipinaliwanag din niya na ang ikatlong quarter ng taon ay panahong mas sumalaganap ang sakit sa mga hayop kung kaya't kailangan po na ang mga bakuna sa lalong madaling panahon.
Isusumite na sa Senado para sa ratifikasyon ngayong buwan ang Reciprocal Access Agreement o RAA ng Pilipinas at ng Japan. Ayon kay Defense Secretary Gilberto Chodoro Jr., asahan na ng publiko ang huling concurrence para sa RAA sa loob ng isang linggo o sa susunod na linggo. Anya, lahat ng concurrence ng ilang ahensya ay natipon na at isusumite ito ng Office of the President sa Senado. Matatandaan na nilagdaan ng Pilipinas at ng Japan ang RAA noong July at ang kasunduan na ito ay magbibigay ng isang legal na framework para sa dalawang bansa na magpadala ng kani-kanilang mga sundalo para sa isang joint training. Ngunit magkakaroon lamang ng legal effect o magkakabisa lamang ang RAA kapag ito ay naratipikahan na ng Philippine Senate at ng Japanese Parliament.
Ibinasura ng Korte Suprema ang kahilingan na writ of amparo ni Attorney Harry Roque laban sa pag-contempt at pagpapaaresto sa kanya ng Quad Committee ng Kamara. Ipinaliwanag ni Supreme Court spokesperson Attorney Camille Ting na maling remedyo ang writ of amparo ni Attorney Roque dahil ito ay para lamang sa extralegal killings at enforced disappearances. Anya, ang mga sitwasyon na ito ay wala sa kasalukuyang kaso ni Attorney Roque. Subalit, ipinag-utos naman ng Korte Suprema sa Quad Committee na magkomento ito sa petisyon ni Roque na humihiling na pigilan ng Supreme Court ang pagpapahuli, pagpapatawag sa kanya at pagpresenta ng mga dokumento sa pagdinig ng Kamara. Kailangan maisumite ng Quad Committee ang komento sa loob ng 10 araw. Susunod, bagong insidente ng pananaksak sa China, maraming nabiktima.
South Korea inilabas na ang kanilang pinakamalakas na missile sa Armed Forces Day.
At Haiti peacekeeping mission, inaprubahan ulit ng United Nations. Mga detalye ng mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
I'm Art.
And I'm PJ.
Tara, samahan niyo kami.
Listen to our school's podcast.
At pag-usapan natin ang mga issues na mahalaga para sa ating mga teenagers.
Let's create art together in... Dito lang sa NET25.
Let's net together sa NET25. Sa NET25.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka nang mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Patay ang 3 katao at 15 naman ang sugatan sa pananaksak sa isang pamilihan sa China. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, naganap ang insidente bisperas ng National Day ng China. Ang National Day sa China ay isang mahalagang holiday ng bansa na tumatagal ng 1 linggo. Ito rin ang pagdiriwang ng China sa formal na proklamasyon ni Mao Zedong sa pagkakatatag ng People's Republic of China. Batay sa ulat ng Songjiang District, kinilalang sa Larin sa pangalan na Lin. Ayon sa investigasyon, bumabiyahe noon si Lin patungong Shanghai para ibuhos ang kanyang galit mula sa isang personal na financial dispute. Nagiging madalas na ang mga insidenteng pananaksak sa China kung saan ang common target nito ay mga bata at mga eskwelahan. Nitong Setyembre lamang, patay sa isang pananaksak ang isang 10 taong gulang na Japanese schoolboy sa Shenzhen, China.
Kasalukuyan naghahanda na ang Taiwan sa pagdating ni Typhoon Kraton matapos manalasa ito sa Pilipinas. Sa katunayan, nag-deploy na ang mga otoridad ng halos 40,000 sundalo para palakasin ang rescue effort ng bansa bago dumating ang malakas na bagyo. Ayon sa weather station ng Taiwan, inaasahang magiging super typhoon ang Kraton bago ito maglandfall sa timog kanlurang baybayin ng nasabing bansa.
Ipinagpatuloy ng mga doktor sa West Bengal State ng India ang kanilang pagwewelga nitong Martes dahil sa reklamo na hindi umano sapat ang desisyon ng korte. Sa huling hearing ng kasong sexual assault at murder sa isang trainee doctor, ay hinikayat ng pinakamataas na korte ng India ang kanilang gobyerno na ipatupad ang mga hakbang upang matugunan ang mga kahilingan ng mga nagpoprotesta roon. Hiniling din ng korte sa Information Ministry na tiyaking hindi mailalathala ang pagkakakilanlan ng biktima alinsunod sa batas. Ngunit giit ng mga doktor, hindi sapat ang hakbang na ito kaya napilitan silang bumalik sa kalsada upang magwelga at manawagan sa gobyerno na magkaroon ng isang malinaw na aksyon hinggil sa naturang kaso. Kabilang sa mga kahilingan ng mga doktor ay ang karagdagang proteksyon ng pulisya sa mga ospital at investigasyon sa sinasabi nilang katiwalian sa ilang mga medical colleges.
Inilantad ng South Korea ang kanilang pinakamalakas na ballistic missile at iba pang mga armas sa isang malaking seremonya ng Armed Forces Day. Ang exhibit na ito ay naganap matapos ipakita ng North Korea ang kanilang uranium enrichment facility at paglulunsad ng mga nuclear-capable missiles sa silangin baybayin ng bansa. Ipinakita ng militar ng South Korea ang mahigit 300 kagamitan at sistema ng armas sa nasabing seremonya. Kabilang dito ang pinakamalakas nilang Yunmu-5 ballistic missile na sinasabing kaya magdala ng 8 tonelada ng conventional warhead na kayang sirain ang mga underground bunkers ng North Korea. Nagpalipad din ang Estados Unidos ng long-range bomber sa seremonya bilang pagpapakita ng kanilang suporta sa South Korea. Sa nasabing seremonya, binilaan naman ni South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol ang karibal na bansa.
만약 북한이 핵무기 사용을 기도한다면 우리 군과 한미 동맹의 결연하고 압도적인 대응에 직면하게 될 것입니다. 그날이 바로 북한 정권 종말의 날이 될 것입니다.
Nagsagawa na po ang Israel ng mga pag-atake sa loob ng Lebanon nitong Martes sa pamamagitan ng ground operations matapos ang 2 linggo na matinding sunod-sunod na airstrikes laban sa Hezbollah.
The Israel Defense Forces is conducting limited and targeted raids along Israel's northern border against the threat Hezbollah poses to civilians in northern Israel. These localized ground raids will target Hezbollah strongholds that threaten Israeli towns, kibbutzim, and communities along our border.
Ayon sa militar ng Israel, nagsimula ang mga operasyon nito Lunes ng gabi na kinabibilangan ng mga paratroopers at commandos na ipinadala mula sa Gaza. Sinabi rin nilang sinuportahan ng Air Force at artillery ang mga ground troops sa kanilang tinatawag na limited, localized and targeted ground raids. Iniulat na umatras ang Lebanese Army mula sa kanilang mga posisyon sa kahabaan ng border upang maiwasang makasagupa ang Israeli military. Ang ground operation na ito ay isang pagpapalawig ng labanan sa Middle East sa pagitan ng Israel at ng mga grupong militante na suportado ng Iran.
Our war is with Hezbollah, not with the people of Lebanon. We do not want to harm Lebanese civilians, and we're taking measures to prevent that. We will not let 7th of October happen again on any one of our borders. We will continue doing whatever necessary so that Israeli families can return to their homes in safety and security.
Samantala, nilinaw ni Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu na ang kanilang kaaway ay ang gobyerno at hindi ang mga mamamayan ng Iran.
I speak a lot about the leaders of Iran. Yet at this pivotal moment, I want to address you, the people of Iran. I want to do so directly, without filters, without middlemen. There is nowhere in the Middle East Israel cannot reach. There's nowhere we will not go to protect our people and protect our country. With every passing moment, the regime is bringing you, the noble Persian people, closer to the abyss.
Dagdag pa nito, mas makabubuti sa mga mamamayan ng Iran ang pagbagsak ng kanilang gobyerno.
But you know one simple thing. Iran's tyrants don't care about your future, but you do. When Iran is finally free, and that moment will come a lot sooner than people think, everything will be different. Our two ancient peoples, the Jewish people and the Persian people, will finally be at peace. Our two countries, Israel and Iran, will be at peace.
Ang Iran ang tinitingnang pangunahing taga-suporta sa militanteng grupo ng Hezbollah sa Lebanon, pati na rin ang Hamas na nasa Gaza. Nagbanta pa si Netanyahu na walang lugar ang hindi kayang maabot ng Israel kapag nagdesisyon sila na tuluyang atakihin ang Iran.
Don't let a small group of fanatic theocrats crush your hopes and your dreams. You deserve better. Your children deserve better. The entire world deserves better. I know you don't support the rapists and murderers of Hamas and Hezbollah, but your leaders do. You deserve more. The people of Iran should know Israel stands with you. May we together know a future of prosperity and peace.
Samantala, sa pinakaaabangan at kontrobersyal na talumpati sa United Nations General Assembly, nangako si Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tuloy-tuloy ang pag-atake nito sa Iran-backed fighters sa Lebanon. Lalo naman pong lumalabo na magkaroon ng isang ceasefire na inaasahang makakapigil sa giyera sa Middle East. Narito ang detalye ng balita mula kay Jeff Sanidad.
Sa paglapit ni Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sa podium ng United Nations, tumanggap ito ng magkaibang reaksyon. Ilang mga delegado ang nag-walk out, samantalang ang mga taga-suporta naman nito ay naghiyawan sa gallery. Ito ay habang sa timugang Lebanon, patuloy ang pag-atake ng Israeli army sa Hezbollah targets. Samantalang nagpapahayag naman ng pangamba ang diplomat sa United Nations na ang pag-atake ay mauuwi sa mas malaking giyera na sasalihan na ng Iran na matagal ng kaaway ng Israel.
Well, I've come here today to say enough is enough. We won't rest until our citizens can return safely to their homes. We will not accept a terror army perched on our northern border, able to perpetrate another October 7-style massacre.
Ayon kay Netanyahu, hindi titigil ang Israel hanggat hindi pa makauwi ng ligtas sa mga mamamayan nito. Sa kanyang talumpati, sinisi ni Netanyahu sa Iran ang mga kaguluhan. Subalit hindi dumalo ang delegasyon ng Iran upang saksihan ang talumpati ni Netanyahu. Dagdag ni Netanyahu, ipinagtatanggol ng Israel ang sarili laban sa Tehran sa maraming fronta. Kasama rito ang pagtatanggol laban sa Hamas sa Gaza, Hezbollah sa Lebanon at Houthis naman sa Yemen. Hindi nagbigay ng komento ang Iran ukol dito. Sinabi rin ni Netanyahu na ipagpapatuloy nito ang usapin ukol sa ceasefire proposals para sa Lebanon sa mga darating na araw. Samantala, nagbabala naman ang Washington na anumang karagdagang eskalasyon ay lalong magpapahirap sa mga sibilyan na makauwi sa kanilang mga tahanan. Subalit iginiit ni Netanyahu na patuloy ang Israel sa kampanya nito.
As long as Hezbollah chooses the path of war, Israel has no choice and Israel has every right to remove this threat and return our citizens to their homes safely. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Nanawagan din ng Israeli Prime Minister ng mas mahigpit na aksyon ukol sa programang nuklear ng Iran. Kasama rito ang pagbabalik-anya ng sanctions na inalis noong 2015 sa ilalim ng nuclear deal ng major world powers. Isang Security Council resolution na pinrotektahan ang nuclear deal at nagbalik UN sanctions ay mapapaso o mag-e-expire na sa Oktubre 2025. Idiniin ni Netanyahu ang pangako nitong haharangin na makakuha ng armas nuklear ang Iran. Tungkol naman sa kaguluhan sa Gaza, sinabi ni Netanyahu na maaaring magwakas ang giyera kung susuko ang Hamas, ibababa ang mga armas at ibabalik ang mga bihag nitong dinakip noong 7 ng Oktubre. Sinabi ni Netanyahu na hindi na siya dapat magpapakita sa General Assembly dahil anya sa kasalukuyang pakikipaglaban ng Israel, subalit minabutian niyang dumalo upang ipagtanggol ang kanyang bansa na inaakusahan ng kasinungalingan ng member states.
I didn't intend to come here this year. My country is at war, fighting for its life. But after I heard the lies and slanders leveled at my country by many of the speakers at this podium, I decided to come here and set the record straight.
Ayon kay Netanyahu, tunay na kapayapaan ang hangad nila.
Israel seeks peace. Israel yearns for peace. Israel has made peace and will make peace again.
Binanggit din ni Netanyahu ang pagdalo sa bulwagan ng mga pamilya ng hostages ng Hamas. Samantala, Kinundana ni Hamas official Sami Abu Zuri ang talumpati ni Netanyahu. Jeff Sanidad, Washington DC para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Sinabi ng US State Department na ipinaalam ng Israel sa Estados Unidos ang ukol sa mga operasyon nito sa Middle East. Alamin natin ang mga detalye mula kay Yolanda Aspiras.
Sinabi ni US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller na impormado ng Israel ang Estados Unidos ukol sa mga operasyon nito. Gayon din na nag-uusap ang dalawang bansa ukol sa ground operations nito. Sinabi rin anya ng Israel sa Washington na ito ay nasa limitadong operasyon na nakatutok sa infrastruktura ng Hezbollah malapit sa border ng Lebanon.
We have been in conversations. They have been informing us about a number of operations. I've seen reports about ground operations. We've had some conversations with them about that. They have, at this time, told us that those are limited operations focused on Hezbollah infrastructure near the border, but we're in continuous conversations with them about it.
Samantala, ipinaliwanag ni Miller kung anong ibig sabihin ng pagsusulong nila ng ceasefire. Anya, kapwa at hindi iisang partido ang dapat magbaba ng armas sa panahon ng tigil putukan.
We of course continue to support a ceasefire, but I think sometimes people either misinterpret or have their own version of what a ceasefire is. A ceasefire is not one side in a conflict unilaterally putting down its arms and stopping the conflict. It is an agreement for both sides to stop the conflict. And in this case, what we have proposed is a 21-day ceasefire where both sides would stop attacking the other and we would reach a diplomatic resolution. And we are going to continue to engage with our Israeli counterparts, with Lebanese counterparts, and with other countries around the world to reach that objective. But at the same time, there are a couple other things that are true as well, which is that number one, military pressure can at times enable diplomacy. Of course, military pressure can also lead to miscalculation. It can lead to unintended consequences, and we're in conversations with Israel about all of these factors now.
Ayon kay Miller, sana ay makipagtulungan na ang Hamas ukol sa tigil putukan. Ani Miller, ilang linggo nang hindi nagpaparamdam ang Hamas sa mga pag-uusap.
And I wish that Hamas would come to the table and work with us on a ceasefire. As you heard me saying earlier, Hamas has been absent for weeks. Won't even respond to the mediators putting forward ideas asking whether they would agree to a ceasefire or not. Look, you can talk about Israel and the culpability that Israel has and the tough decisions that Israel needs to make. And it's absolutely true that Israel needs to make tough decisions to get to a ceasefire. But the way out of this conflict is a ceasefire, and it is Hamas that is missing in action right now that won't come to the table to talk about one.
Yolanda Aspiras para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Sinabi ni US State Secretary Antony Blinken na nasa kamay ng bawat partido ang kinabukasan ng Middle East. Anya, ang mga desisyong ilalapat ng mga lider ng rehiyon ay may takasang epekto sa mga darating na taon. Ana Cuipo para sa balita.
Sa isang news conference sa gilid ng United Nations General Assembly sa New York, sinabi ni State Secretary Antony Blinken na ang kinabukasan ng gitnang silangan ay nakasalalay sa mga desisyon ng mga partidong sangkot.
The events of the past week and the past few hours underscore what a precarious moment this is for the Middle East and for the world. Israel has the right to defend itself against terrorism. The way it does so matters. The choices that all parties make in the coming days will determine which path this region is on.
Pinagyan diin ni Blinken na naniniwala pa rin ang Washington na iisa lang ang daan pasulong.
The United States has made clear, along with the G7, the European Union, partners in the Gulf, so many other regions, that we believe the way forward is through diplomacy, not conflict.
Samantala, sinabi ni Blinken na nagkaroon sila ng tapat at mabungang pagpupulong ni Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi noong Biyernes din. Ani Blinken, binanggit niya ang pagkapahala ng US sa suporta ng China sa defense industrial base ng Russia. Binanggit din niya ang mapanganib na mga aksyon ng China sa South China Sea. Tinalakay din nila ang pagpapabuting komunikasyon sa pagitan ng US at Chinese militaries, mga paraan upang harangan ang daloy ng drugs papasok sa US at ang panganib na dulot ng artificial intelligence. Anakwi para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Nakatakdang manumpa si Claudia Sheinbaum bilang kauna-unahang babaeng presidente ng Mexico ngayong Martes. Haharapin ng 62 taong gulang na scientist na naging politiko ang mga hamon sa kanilang bansa gaya ng mataas na antas ng karahasan, mabagal na ekonomiya at ang napinsalang lungsod ng Acapulco dahil sa bagyo. Nangako siya na ipagpapatuloy ang mga popular na social policies na kontrobersyal na mga reforma sa konstitusyon ng kanyang mentor na si dating Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. Ngunit mapapasabak din si Sheinbaum sa sitwasyon sa lungsod ng Culiacan na kontrolado ng mga kartel, kung saan nagkaroon ng tunggalian ng mga faction ng Sinaloa Cartel. Si Sheinbaum ay nagwagi sa halalan noong Hunyo na may halos 60% ng boto. Lalong lumakas ang kanyang popularidad dahil sa political mentor niya na si Lopez Obrador.
Nanawagan ang mga kapartido ni New York Mayor Eric Adams na magbitiw na ito sa pwesto. Dahil po dito, sinabi naman ni Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul na binibigyan niya ng oportunidad si Mayor Adams na itama ang sitwasyon upang maibalik ang kumpiyansa ng mga mamamayan sa New York City government. Cherry Recolizado para sa balita.
Matapos ang indictment kay Democrat New York Mayor Eric Adams para sa kasong pagtanggap ng suhol at iligal na kontribusyon para sa kampanya mula sa Turkish nationals, humaharap ito ngayon sa pressure na iwanan na ang pwesto bilang alkalde. Bilang tugon, sinabi ni Democratic New York Governor Kathy Hochul na binibigyan niya si Adams ng pagkakataon na ayusin ang sitwasyon upang isulong ang isang epektibong gobyerno.
This situation is, as long as it feels it's been around a long time, this is still fairly new. And I'm giving the mayor an opportunity now to demonstrate to New Yorkers and to me that we are righting the ship, that we have the opportunity to instill the confidence that I think is wavering right now, and to power forward with an effective government. That's what I'm looking for.
Ipinahayag ni Hochul ang pag-aalala niya para sa kasalukuyang kalagayan ng lungsod. Subalit, hindi nito binanggit ang mga detalye ng kanilang pribadong pag-uusap ni Adams. Binigyang diin ni Hochul na masugid nitong sinusubaybayan ang sitwasyon. Gayon din ang kahalagahan ng responsableng pamumuno. Nanatilian niya itong tapat sa patuloy na operasyon ng gobyerno para sa mga residente ng New York. May kapangyarihan si Hochul na alisin sa pwesto si Adams. Si Adams, na nag-plead na not guilty sa mga akusasyon, ay ang kauna-unahang mayor ng lungsod na haharap sa federal crime habang nasa pwesto. Cherry Recolizado para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nagkaisang United Nations Security Council na aprubahan ng isa pang taon ang International Security Force na tumutulong labanan ang mga armadong grupo sa Haiti. Raisa Mangilit para sa balita.
Ayon kay U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas Greenfield, na nakatutok na yon ang bansa na suportahan ang panawagan ng leader ng Transition Council ng Haiti na si Edgar Leblanc. Ang panawagan ni Leblanc ay ang gawing UN peacekeeping mission ang security force.
We welcome today's unanimous adoption of Resolution 2751, proposed by Ecuador and the United States, which renews the authorization of the multinational security support mission in Haiti. This renewal sends a strong message to the people of Haiti. The world stands with you, and we are unwavering in our efforts to restore security and stability and put you on the path to peace and prosperity.
Noong isang linggo, nagbabala ang mga lider ng Haiti ng lumalalang sitwasyon sa bansang ito sa Caribbean. Lalong lumakas ang mga armadong gang gamit ang armas na trinapik mula sa US. Nagkaisa ang mga ito sa ilalim ng iisang alyansa at ngayon kumukontrol na sa halos buong lungsod at kalapit na mga lugar. Sinabi ni Haiti UN Ambassador Antonio Rodriguez sa konseho na ang pagtatransforma sa security force na maging peacekeeping operation ay sadyang kailangan sa lalong madaling panahon.
Nous devons admettre que les défis sont encore énormes et complexes. La violence des gangs continue de déchirer le tissu social et les violations des droits de l'homme se multiplient, plongeant des milliers de familles dans la détresse. L'insécurité est omniprésente, paralysant l'économie, minant les institutions et alimentant la peur parmi la population. Il ne fait aucun doute que la mission doit être renforcée pour être pleinement opérationnelle. Et dans ce cadre, la transformation de la MSS en une opération de maintien de la paix sous mandat des Nations Unies apparaît non seulement nécessaire, mais urgente. Une telle transformation garantirait non seulement un financement plus stable par le biais des contributions obligatoires des États membres, mais permettrait également d'élargir les capacités de la mission à un niveau adapté à l'ampleur des défis actuels en Haïti.
Kahit na ang security mission ay aprobado ng UN Security Council, ito ay hindi isang operasyon ng United Nations. Nakasalalay ito sa voluntaryong kontribusyon. Sa kasalukuyang, kakapiranggot ang progreso nito sa pagtulong sa Haiti gamit lamang ang 400 Kenyan police at kakaunting pondo. Ngunit ayon sa China at Russia na may veto power sa konseho tulad ng US, France at Britain, kailangan pa ng security mission ng karagdagang panahon upang patatagin ang sarili. Raisa Mangilit para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Ito na. Susunod, matinding baha sa Nepal, kumitil ng 200 buhay.
NBA Hall of Famer na si Dikembe Mutombo pumanaw na sa edad na 58 taong gulang.
At Coldplay, inanunsyo ang kanilang huling album na ilalabas. Ang detalye na iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng mata ng Agila International.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders. This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Umabot na sa 200 katao ngayon ang nasawi sa Nepal dahil sa matinding pagbaha at pagguho ng lupa. Patuloy naman pinaghahanap ang nasa 32 katao na nawawala mula sa 2 araw na mga pag-ulan doon. Dagdag pa po rito ang higit sa 100,000 mga residenteng stranded sa bahagi ng Bangladesh at Nepal dahil sa matinding pagbaha. Ayon pa sa mga otoridad ay lubog ngayon sa baha ang nasa libo-libong mga kabahayan kasama ng mga ospital at palengke sa lugar. Sarado rin at hindi naman madaanan ang ilang mga tulay at kalsada na isa sa mga dahilan ng mas mahirap na search and rescue operations. Samantala, nagpaabot na ng tulong at suporta ang gobyerno ng Nepal sa mga residente na apektado ng kalamidad.
Sa Estados Unidos, tinatansyang nasa 600 ang maaaring nasawi dahil kay Hurricane Helene. 25 rito ang kumpirmadong namatay na sa estado ng Georgia. Narito ang report ni Georgia correspondent Philip Toledo.
Georgia Governor Brian Kemp says he had spoken to President Joe Biden and had submitted an expedited emergency declaration. This as the state struggles to restore power to hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses after Hurricane Helene barreled through the state. At least 25 people have been killed. Those outages were down from earlier in the day as utilities continue to restore power. In total, the storm knocked out service to around 5.5 million customers across the southeast. According to a Reuters tally of state and local officials, the winds, rain, and storm surge killed at least 90 people in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, and Virginia. Kemp says the state has never before experienced the kind of destruction brought by Hurricane Helene.
This storm literally spared no one. It took one of our finest and a firefighter, Leon Davis, who was with the Blackshear Fire Department Assistant Chief while responding to a call. As you all know, in this community, a 27-year-old mother and her 1-month-old twin boys were killed when a tree fell on their home in McDuffie County. In Washington County, a 7-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl died when a tree fell on their burning house. A 58-year-old man in Dublin when a tree crashed on his home, and many more across our state and really across the entire southeast where this storm hit. We have had 25 known fatalities in the state of Georgia at this point. So a couple of things on the way of an update. Number one is Marty and I have flown not only in Valdosta but flying down over McDuffie, Columbia, and Richmond County today. Literally, this hurricane, it looks like a 250-mile wide tornado has hit. The thing that's unusual about this storm is unprecedented for a Cat 2 hurricane to actually make landfall in Georgia, and to see the level of destruction that a hurricane could do in this community, being this far from Lowndes County or Eccles County in the Florida line, is unprecedented.
Meanwhile, U.S. Homeland Security Advisor Liz Sherwood Randall says there could be as many as 600 deaths due to Hurricane Helene.
I'll just say on the death count you asked about. So the current data we have is that it looks like there could be as many as 600 lost lives. But we don't have any confirmation of that. We know there are 600 who are either lost or unaccounted for. And so that work is ongoing. I'll caution you, because we've seen this before, those numbers vary widely. There's a lot of reporting that doesn't add up about the numbers. And so while we may see the numbers go up as we get to more locations that have not yet been fully developed in terms of disaster immediate emergency response operations, we may see more people who unfortunately perished. But we may also not see the numbers skyrocket as people have predicted they might. So I would just urge you to wait until we have the facts, and we'll report them to you as we have them.
Helene slammed into Florida on Thursday, moved north, and left behind devastated power grids. Helene flooded cities across a vast stretch of the southeast. The death toll already has topped over 100 in the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, and Virginia. Officials fear more bodies will be discovered. Cell phone towers are down across the region. Hundreds of people had yet to make contact with loved ones and were listed as unaccounted for. Damage estimates ranged from $15 billion to more than $100 billion. Water systems, communications, and critical transportation routes are all severely affected. Philip Toledo, Atlanta, Georgia for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Tuloy pa rin ang paghahanap sa nawawalang 48 migrants sa Canary Island matapos tumaob ang kanilang sinasakyang bangka. Loela Sosa para sa detalye.
Hinanap ng mga patrol boat at helicopter noong linggo ang humigit kumulang 48 migrantes na nawawala mula nang lumubog ang kanilang bangka. Malapit sa isla ng El Hierro ng Espanya sa kung ano ang nagbabantang maging ang pinakanakamamatay na insidente sa loob ng 30 taon ng paglalakbay mula sa Africa patungo sa Canary Islands. Ayon sa mga emergency at rescue services, 9 na katao kabilang ang isang bata ang kumpirmadong patay matapos lumubog ang kanilang bangka noong Sabado ng madaling araw. Noong Sabado, nakuha ng mga rescuers ang 27 sa 84 na migrantes na nagsisikap na makarating sa baybayin ng Espanya. 3 patrol boat at 3 helicopter ang kasama sa bagong paghahanap noong linggo, ayon sa spokesperson ng Spanish Coast Guard. Ang mga migrante ay mula sa Mali, Mauritania at Senegal, sinabi ng mga awtoridad sa Espanya. Nakatanggap ng tawag ang mga serbisyong pang-emerhensya pagkalipas ng hating gabi noong Sabado mula sa bangka na may 4 na bilyang sinangan ng El Hierro. Ito ay lumubog sa panahon ng pagliligtas ayon sa kanila. Ang hangin at mahinang visibility ay nagpahirap sa pagdiligtas. 3 sa mga nasagip ay dumaranas ng hypothermia at dehydration. Ang 9 na namatay na imigrantes ay nakatakdang ilibing ngayong araw. Habang lumiliit ang pag-asa na makahanap ng higit pang mga nakaligtas, nagtayo ang mga pulis ng morgue sa El Hierro. Kabilang sa mga namatay ay isang bata sa pagitan ng 12 to 15 taong gulang ayon sa NGO Walking Borders na tumutulong sa mga migrantes. 3 iba pang mga bangka ang dumating magdamag sa Canary Islands kasama ang 208 imigrantes. Samantala, 2 bangkang kargado ng mga migrantes pa ang nakarating sa Canary Islands noong linggo habang patuloy na hinahanap ng mga rescuers ang 48 na nawawalang migrantes. Ang mahinahong dagat at mahinang hangin na nauugnay sa pagtatapos ng tag-araw sa karagatang Atlantiko sa kanlurang Africa ay nagdulot ng bagong alon sa mga migrantes. Ang ruta mula sa Africa patungo sa mga isla ay nakakita ng 154% na pagtaas sa bilang ng mga migrantes na may 21,620 na tumawid sa unang 7 buwan. Data mula sa European Union Border Agency ng Frontex. Loela Talbososa from Spain para sa Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Patay ang 25 katao matapos masunog ang isang bus sa Thailand. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, galing sa probinsya ng Uthai Thani ang bus para sa isang field trip sa Bangkok. Kinumpirma ni Thai Transport Minister Suwiria Juangruangruan Kit na dinala sa pagamutan ang 16 na estudyante at 3 guro na nakaligtas sa insidente. Kita sa video, nagbabagang apoy na bumabalot sa bus habang nakatirik ito sa kalsada. Makalipas ang ilang oras ay dumating ang mga bumbero para apulahin ang apoy. Nagpahayag naman ang pakikiramay si Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra sa pamilya ng mga namatayan.
Nagdagsaan ng libo-libong mga parrots o loro sa bayan ng Hilario, Ascasubi malapit sa silangang Atlantic Coast ng bansang Argentina. Ayon po sa ulat, pinamugaran ng green, yellow, red bird sa mga telephone lines at kawad ng kuryente sa bayan. Paliwanag ng mga biologists sa nasabing lugar dahil ito sa deforestation na nagaganap sa mga gubat sa Argentina. Pangunahing nagiging problema ng mga taga-Hilario Ascasubi ang power outages dahil kinakagat ng mga ibon ang mga kable ng kuryente sa kanila. Nababahala na rin ang mga residente sa kalinisan ng kanilang lugar dahil sa natipong o naipong dumi ng mga ibon na posibleng pagkunan ng sakit ng mga tao.
Isang lalaki ang aksidenteng nahulog sa bundok sa Anhui, China. Sa lakas ng ulan ay basang-basa ang trail na nilalakaran ng hiker na si Yang Meng. Dahil rito, siya ay nadulas at dire-diretsong nahulog sa bundok. Mabuti na lang at may isang puno siyang nakapitan, kaya siya ay nakaligtas. Ang nasabing insidente ay nakuna ng 360-degree camera ni Yang na nakasukbit sa kanyang bag. Nagtamo siya ng mga sugat sa binti at nawala ang kanyang relo at singsing. Sabi ni Yang, nawala man ang kanyang mga gamit ay mas mahalaga na hindi nawala ang kanyang buhay.
Lumagda sa isang $7.5 billion contract ang Washington Boeing para mag-produce ng mga guided weapons na tinatawag na Joint Direct Attack Munition o JDAM. Batay sa kontrata, ang Boeing ang magpo-produce ng JDAM tail kit sa facility nito sa St. Louis sa Missouri hanggang sa katapusan ng February 2030. Umaabot sa $25,000 up to $84,000 ang halaga kada piraso ng JDAM kits, depende sa ilang unit na bibilhin ng Washington. Inaasahang ipagkakaloob din ito ng Estados Unidos sa mga kaalyado nitong bansa, katulad na lamang po ng Ukraine, Taiwan at Israel.
Pinagmumulta ng Russia ang Google at Discord dahil sa pagpalya nilang sumunod sa panawagan ng Moscow na burahin ang mga banned content sa mga kani-kanilang platforms. Batay sa court order ng Tagansky District, kapang pinagbabayad ng 3.5 million rubles o $37,674 ang dalawang kumpanya. Hindi naman nagbigay ng pahayag ang Google at Discord hinggil sa issue.
At pumanaw na po ang NBA Hall of Famer na si Dikembe Mutombo sa edad na 58 years old. Kinumpirma ni NBA Commissioner Adam Silver ang pagpanaw ni Mutombo dahil sa brain cancer. Sinabi ni Silver na hindi makakalimutan ang pagiging magaling ni Mutombo sa depensa, lalo na sa pagiging greatest shot blocker at defensive player sa kasaysayan ng NBA. Naging 8-time NBA All-Star player ito at 4 na beses itong nagwagi ng Defensive Player of the Year Award. Mula taong 1991 hanggang 2009 ay naglaro ito sa NBA sa mga koponan na Denver Nuggets, Atlanta Hawks, Philadelphia 76ers, New Jersey Nets, New York Knicks at Houston Rockets. Habang ito ay naglalaro ay tinutulungan niya ang mga mamamayan sa Democratic Republic of the Congo. Nagtayo din siya roon ng foundation noong taong 1997, gayon din ay nagbukas siya ng mga paaralan at pagamutan sa pamamagitan ng charities. Nagsilbi siya bilang unang global ambassador ng NBA. Noong October 2022 ay inanunsyo niyang nagpapagamot siya ng kanyang brain tumor.
Ikinatuwa ngayon ng Blinks ang balita na maglalabas ng bagong solo single na Mantra ang miyembro ng Blackpink na si Jennie. Makikita sa inilabas na post ng Art Atelier ang 18 segundo na teaser clip ni Jennie para sa bagong kanta. Agaw pansin naman sa video ang pagkagat nito sa cherry habang pinatutugtog ang kanta sa background. Dagdag pa rito ang mensahe na inilabas ni Jennie na may linyang Pretty Girls Don't Do Drama bilang bahagi ng tinatawag na women empowerment ng bagong kanta. Inaabangan naman ngayon ng fans ang nakatakdang paglabas ng bagong single sa October 11 na mula sa debut album na Ruby Red. Samantala, matatandaan na nitong nakaraan lamang ay pumirma ng kontrata si Jennie para sa solo activities na kanyang gagawin mula sa Art Atelier at Columbia Records.
Inanunsyo naman po ng Coldplay na hanggang ika-12 album na lamang ang ilalabas ng kanilang grupo. Ayon sa lead vocalist ng grupong si Chris Martin ay 2 huling album na lamang ang kanila magagawa mula sa ika-10 na Moon Music na inilabas noong October 4. Naniniwala rin siya na mas maganda at mabibigyang halaga ang mga kanta kung ito ay may limitadong bilang at bersyon lamang. Anya, hindi titigil ang banda sa pagbutihin ang kanilang performance at mga pagkanta mula sa World Tour. Dagdag pa niya ay pagkakataon din ito para sa kanilang lahat na magpahinga at maging abala na sa mga personal nilang buhay bukod pa sa pagkanta.
Nakatakdang ilabas sa October 27 ang dokumentaryo na A History of Violence ni Chris Brown, kaugnay ng kampanya laban sa pang-aabuso. Tatalakayin sa dokumentaryo na ilalabas ng Quiet on Set Network ID ang mga kaso na kinakaharap ni Brown gaya ng domestic violence at sexual assault na nagsimula taong 2009. Kasunod ito ng pananakit niya sa dating kasintahan na si Rihanna na naging dahilan para ito'y mapunta sa ospital. Mapapanood din sa dokumentaryo ang kwento ng buhay niya mula sa kanyang kabataan at ang matinding epekto ng mga pang-aabuso na kanyang ginawa. Ibabahagi rin dito ang mga karanasan ng mga biktima ng pang-aabuso, epekto ng pang-aabuso sa kanilang pagkatao at sa kung paano sila muling nakabangon. Samantala, nakilala naman si Chris Brown mula sa mga kantang Look at Me Now, With You, Forever at Go Crazy. Dinaluhan ni Prince Harry ang Well Child Charity Awards na ginanap sa London bilang bahagi ng pagdiriwang sa mga bata at pamilya na lumalaban sa matinding sakit. Binati at tinawag ni Prince Harry ang mga bata sa event ng Little Legends dahil sa patuloy nitong paglaban sa kanilang mga karamdaman. Bago naman magsimula ang event ay nakipagkita siya sa mga award winners ng charity at sa mga pamilya nito. Dagdag pa rito ang pagkilala sa kanya ng mga tao dahil sa higit sa 15 taon nitong pagsuporta sa nasabing charity. Ikinatuwa rin ang mga tauhan sa event na makasama ang prinsipe sa taunang pagdiriwang ng kanilang isinasagawa para bigyang pag-asa ang mga bata na may malubhang sakit. Samantala, kaliwat ka ng pagbisita naman sa mga charity events sa UK, ang patuloy niyang ginagawa sa mga nakalipas na buwan para bigyang halaga ang kalagayan ng mga tao.
At narito kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Muli ako po si Ricky Mathay.
Ako naman si Nina Richie Alago Flores. Ito ang Mata ng Agila International. Para sa mga balitang nangyari sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta naman tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines. Hurricane Helene leaves a path of destruction, claiming over 100 lives. Multiple communities decimated as storm obliterates homes, businesses, and entire towns. Emergency response teams mobilize for extensive recovery efforts.
The current data we have is that it looks like there could be as many as 600 lost lives.
Israeli forces launch limited border operations against Hezbollah in Lebanon, signaling potential wider conflict. And the U.S. deploys additional military personnel to the region.
The Israel Defense Forces is conducting limited and targeted raids along Israel's northern border against the threat Hezbollah poses to civilians in northern Israel.
More aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now.
And the news starts now. Taiwan has mobilized nearly 40,000 troops as powerful Typhoon Krathon heads towards its southwest coast. Rescue teams are on standby, ready to help as the storm surge is expected to hit soon. Helicopters have already rescued 13 out of 19 sailors who had to abandon their ship after it took on water. As a precaution, some flights have been canceled, a rail line shut down, and in the major port city of Kaohsiung, shops and restaurants closed while the streets are mostly empty.
对啊，加强啊，就是把那个帆布给它收起来啊，不然它少了，这个帆布都会破掉啊，所以我把它收起来啊，那个船只呢把它绑好，绑固定一点的，这样就之后发生什么事情我们就没有办法了。
我们家里都有准备那个粮食啊，也有手电筒，那些都有准备，希望不要断电。
While typhoons often hit Taiwan, they usually make landfall along the mountainous east coast. However, Krathon is expected to hit the flat western plain, making landfall near Kaohsiung early Wednesday afternoon. The city, with a population of about 2.7 million, has declared a holiday and told residents to stay home as Krathon's, which the U.S. Navy's Joint Typhoon Warning Center calls a super typhoon, gets closer. Now the storm is expected to move northeast across Taiwan before heading out into the East China Sea. And Helene left a trail of destruction in Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia. Take a look. Today, the president's Homeland Security advisor warned that the death toll could rise sharply.
The current data we have is that it looks like there could be as many as 600 lost lives. But we don't have any confirmation of that. We know there are 600 who are either lost or unaccounted for.
But the full extent of this 600-mile path of destruction is still unclear. Hurricane Helene first slammed into Florida as a Category 4, bringing a storm surge of over 15 feet. And then it barreled into Georgia, where the governor described the scene as if a bomb had gone off.
Marty and I have flown not only in Valdosta, but flying down over McDuffie, Columbia, and Richmond County today. Literally, this hurricane, it looks like a 250-mile wide tornado.
But it's North Carolina that suffered the most, hundreds of miles away from the initial landfall. Tonight, many communities are still in desperate need of food and fresh water, with roads cut off and some supplies being delivered by mule teams to Asheville.
This has been an unprecedented storm that has hit western North Carolina. It's requiring an unprecedented response. We're here today with FEMA officials, state officials, local officials, working hard to surge resources into this area. There are 92 rescue teams out working doing search and rescue right now. Power outages have been reduced to about 415,000. Progress is being made on increasing cellular service, and we're dealing with a situation that is unlike anybody's ever seen in western North Carolina.
The destruction here is overwhelming, and residents say they'll need all the help they can get to recover.
When it comes to where we're going to go from here, I guess anywhere but here. I don't see anything to go back to. We left our cars, of course. We have one suitcase, really, and so trying to figure out four people and a dog out of one suitcase. It's just surreal. I don't know another way of describing it. It's like trying to figure out what matters to you and what doesn't at that scale is tough.
Federal officials are still trying to coordinate with the delivery of supplies, including generators, Starlink systems, and pallets of water for these stricken communities.
Already, nearly 100 people have been confirmed dead, and hundreds more are missing. The destruction we have seen in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia is heartbreaking. So far, more than 3,300 federal personnel are on the ground to assist with recovery efforts. They are deploying food, water, and generators. And we continue to work with teams on the ground to restore water and power as quickly as possible.
Meanwhile, President Biden and former President Trump are engaged in a war of words over the federal response. Trump visited a storm zone in Georgia today, criticizing Biden for not doing enough.
They don't have communication. They don't have anything right now. We're trying to. I just spoke to Elon. I'm getting him. We want to get Starlink hooked up because they have no communication whatsoever. And Elon will always come through. We know that. And so we're working on that, getting them hooked up. They asked me whether or not that would be possible. And we're going to try and get the Starlink in there as soon as possible because they have no communication. And throughout the region, our hearts are with you, and we are going to be with you as long as you need. It's called an hour of need. You're in our prayers.
While Biden is expected to tour the devastation in North Carolina on Wednesday.
I've directed my team to provide every available resource as fast as possible to your communities to rescue, recover, and to begin rebuilding.
Israel's conflict with Hezbollah in Lebanon has intensified, and U.S. officials report that Israeli troops have launched a limited ground operation into southern Lebanon, just days after killing a top Hezbollah leader following nearly a year of rocket attacks on northern Israel. Take a look.
UAV briefed troops on the Lebanese border as Israeli airstrikes continued on targets in Beirut. The 2-week-long wave of attacks has eliminated several Hezbollah commanders, including its chief, Hassan Nasrallah.
The Israel Defense Forces is conducting limited and targeted raids along Israel's northern border against the threat Hezbollah poses to civilians in northern Israel. These localized ground raids will target Hezbollah strongholds that threaten Israeli towns, kibbutzim, and communities along our border. Hezbollah turned Lebanese villages next to Israeli villages into military bases, all ready for an attack on Israel. Hezbollah had prepared to use those villages as staging grounds for an October 7th-style invasion into Israeli homes.
The ground operation came as no surprise to the U.S., according to State Department spokesman Matthew Miller.
We have been in conversations. They have been informing us about a number of operations. I've seen reports about ground operations. We've had some conversations with them about that. They have, at this time, told us that those are limited operations focused on Hezbollah infrastructure near the border, but we're in continuous conversations with them about it.
U.S. President Joe Biden followed up saying he doesn't believe Israel will wage all-out war with Lebanon.
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now.
Biden's wish for a ceasefire doesn't appear to be in the cards anytime soon. Israel is determined to wipe out Hezbollah, and the Iran-backed terrorist group says it's prepared for a long battle.
سنواجه أي احتمال ومستعدون.
We will face any possible attack, and we are ready.
بريا فالقوات
If the Israelis decide to enter by land, the resistance forces are ready for a ground engagement.
نحن أعدينا وتجهزنا.
We have prepared and got ready.
سنختار أمينا عاما للحزب.
We will choose a Secretary General for the party as soon as possible, according to the party's approved selection mechanism.
في الحزب ونملأ القيادات.
And we will fill the leadership positions on a permanent basis.
كونوا مطمئنين أن الخيارات.
Rest assured that the choices will be easy because they are clear and because we are united.
على قلب واحد.
U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, says efforts are continuing to reach a truce and prevent this conflict from spreading.
We have been clear in our position that we want to see de-escalation. We do not want to see this spread.
European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell also calls on both sides to put down their weapons. He says it's time for diplomacy to speak and be heard by all. Borrell adds Hezbollah has to stop its rocket attacks on Israel.
The sovereignty of both Israel and Lebanon has to be guaranteed, and any further military intervention would dramatically aggravate the situation, and it has to be avoided.
While the politicians and diplomats try to sort things out, life has become unbearable for people in Lebanon. Those that can, get out. These British citizens who had been living in Lebanon just arrived at London's Heathrow Airport. They describe what things were like when they left.
When I left my house, it's all right. Then you get to Beirut on my way to the airport. There is about maybe 500-meter line where people are just sleeping on the street, from on the grass, on the sidewalk, in front of the mosque.
Like the war in Gaza, civilians are paying the highest price.
I have a family, 5 daughters, and my brother's family, and we don't know where to go. That is the problem. We don't know what our fate is.
The current death toll of
this war is only going to inflame the region further and might cause major havoc and more suffering for the civilian population in the region who had enough with wars, and particularly the Lebanese and the Palestinians who have been. Lebanese still haven't recovered for the trauma of the civil war, and intermittent invasions by Israel.
Civilians in Lebanon right now stands at about 1,000, and more than 1 million people have had to flee their homes. For them, a ceasefire cannot come soon enough. Thomas I. Likeness, NET25 World News.
Now, off the coast of Alaska, a dangerously close call between U.S. and Russian military forces. But just how close did it get? A U.S. military jet captured the moment when a Russian fighter plane came alarmingly near, forcing the American pilot to take quick action. And this incident occurred in international airspace. But was it a simple mistake or something more? U.S. officials are raising concerns, calling the encounter unsafe and unprofessional. Why did this particular intercept stand out? The U.S. military, which regularly conducts intercepts near Alaska, says this one crossed the line. Air Force General Gregory Gillett, who oversees U.S. forces in North America, criticized the Russian pilot's actions, saying they endangered everyone involved and weren't what you'd expect from a professional Air Force. Russia's embassy in Washington has yet to respond, but what led to such risky maneuvers in the first place? Now, just days before, NORAD detected 4 Russian military planes operating in the Alaska Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. While these intercepts are common, this time the danger was unmistakable. Southeast Asia is right at the heart of U.S.-China competition, and the Philippines is playing a key role in this strategic rivalry. With the 2024 U.S. presidential election just around the corner, what different approaches could Kamala Harris and Donald Trump bring to U.S. engagement in the region? And with China continuing to put pressure on the South China Sea, how will the Philippines manage under either a Harris or Trump administration? Now, Gregory Poling, Senior Fellow for Southeast Asia at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, weighs in.
In general, though, China's interests in the South China Sea aren't going to change. China's policy in the South China Sea for the entirety of Xi Jinping's tenure has been the same, steadily ratcheting up the pressure, assuming that the Philippines will buckle, and with it, the U.S. will be shown to be a paper tiger in the region. And that's going to present either administration with a conundrum, even if they don't want it, as I suspect that a Trump team in particular might not want to be thinking about the South China Sea on day one.
Polling points out that if Harris wins, we can expect a sense of continuity.
Under a Harris administration, I'm quite confident it continues, because Harris has been one of the point people for the administration on the Philippine line. She's gone out twice, made her first big trip to the Philippines. She stood aboard the Teresa Magbanua, which is the ship that just spent a month getting rammed by the Chinese at Sabina Shoal. First vice president to ever visit Palawan, the Philippine president's province on the South China Sea. So Filipinos understandably feel quite good about the prospects of a Harris administration, and assume that it'll be staffed by a lot of people who have already worked the alliance over the last 4 years.
But what about Trump? Polling says his approach is much more uncertain.
The Trump administration is more of a question mark, as it is on everything. We can pick names out of a hat and say if these people end up in the administration, they'll be friends of the Philippines. Pompeo was the one that first clarified the treaty commitment in 2019. Hagerty is the one that just filed a bill calling for $2.5 billion in FMF to the Philippines in the next 5 years. But for every one of those, there's also people who have absolutely no record on the Philippines. And most worryingly, Donald Trump himself has virtually no record on the Philippines.
Say again?
I said Donald Trump himself has virtually no record on the Philippines. So I think in all other things being equal, we can expect this trend in a deeper alliance to continue, but maybe the momentum slows down a bit if it's not Harris. That's probably the expectation in Manila.
So as tensions continue to mount in the South China Sea, both Harris and Trump will have to figure out how to counter China's aggressiveness and still keep the Philippines confident in its partnership with the U.S., while also juggling wider U.S. interests in Southeast Asia. President Marcos Jr. isn't bothered by his sister, Senator Amy Marcos, deciding not to join his senatorial slate for the 2025 election, saying it's her choice.
That's fine. That happens. I've run as an independent myself many times, and so that is her choice. I suppose it gives her a little bit more scope and freedom to make her own schedule and to campaign in the way that she would like to do. But
he added that his political alliance, Alianza para sa Bagong Pilipinas, will still support Amy's senatorial campaign.
But, the Alianza is still behind her. We are still continuing to support her. And if down the road she chooses to join us in our campaign sorties, she is of course very welcome.
Now, to recall, back on September 26, the president announced his administration's 12 senatorial candidates for the 2025 elections. And since then, both Senator Amy and former Senator Panfilo Lacson have stepped away from the slate. Senator Amy explained she chose to run on her own to keep her brother out of any tough situations, while Lacson clarified his running as an independent, only guesting with the Nationalist People's Coalition. Tonight, a strike has begun at 36 U.S. ports with dock workers walking out after a midnight deadline for a deal expired. Thousands of dock workers across the East Coast and Gulf Coast have stopped work, impacting major ports from New England to Texas. But what does this mean for the economy? The International Longshore Men's Association, which represents the workers, was in talks with the U.S. Maritime Alliance, negotiating over pay and work conditions. But with no deal reached, the question is, how long could this strike last? Truckers and rail companies are scrambling to move billions of dollars worth of goods before operations come to a standstill. What happens now that everything from cars to electronics, food to apparel could be stranded?
It's a very large amount of money at stake here. There's a substantial amount of commerce that moves in and out of the East Coast and Gulf ports that'll be affected. And it'll have ripple effects because those goods aren't being moved. Sales won't occur, so that affects people engaged in the sale of the products or dependent on the revenue from the sale. So there are many effects from the potential stoppage of commerce.
The union was offered a 50% pay increase, but the dock workers are also demanding less automation at the ports.
There seem to be two big issues. One is the workers are asking for very substantial wage increases over the multi-year contract. And the workers are also complaining that management is introducing new technology that has the threat or possibility of replacing workers. And workers want to get more job security, assurance that even if the technology is introduced, they won't lose their jobs, or if the technology is introduced, they receive sufficient compensation to compensate them for the fact that some of them may have to retire early or possibly even be laid off. So it's both the wage increase question and the introduction of new technology that are the key issues in the negotiation.
Will this deadlock over job security be the real stumbling block? The Maritime Alliance has asked federal labor officials to bring both sides back to the negotiating table. But every day of this strike could cost the economy a staggering $4.5 billion. Cornell University labor expert Harry Katz weighs in, saying a strike like this may not last long.
My own prediction would be, honestly, that
the parties, might settle before the start of a strike, and the strike may last a few weeks. I wouldn't expect it to go on several months. The workers are going to lose a lot of income during the strike. They have substantial earnings. They want even more. They have every right to ask for more. And they're going to feel the effects of that loss of income. And the managers who manage the ports are going to feel the effects of lost sales and profits through the ports. And that's going to put pressure on both of them to lower their expectations. That's what happens in strikes.
And the news continues here on NET25 World News. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Kwentuhan, tawanan, masasarap na agahan, may bonus pang papremyo at sayawan.
Yan ang hatid natin tuwing umaga kasama ang dumarami pa nating kabarangay.
Araw-araw, sabay-sabay tayong mag-enjoy kasama kaming kabarangay nyo.
Tony Pet and everything! Kabarangay nyo!
Kabarangay nyo! Kabarangay nyo! Kabarangay nyo! Tan 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 tan! Tan 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 tan!
Together sa NET25 sa NET25.
The FDA has approved the first antipsychotic drug for schizophrenia that targets cholinergic receptors, offering a new approach beyond the usual dopamine treatments. Rose Papa Angeles has more from Washington, D.C.
The FDA gives the green light for the use of Cobenfy or xanomeline and trospium chloride oral capsules for the treatment of schizophrenia in adults. The World Health Organization says around 24 million people worldwide have schizophrenia. That is about 1 in 300 people. And among adults, the rate is in 1 in 222 people. FDA Center for Drug Evaluation and Research Psychiatry Division Director Tiffany Farchione says schizophrenia is a leading cause of disability worldwide. She says it is a severe, chronic mental illness often damaging a person's quality of life. Cobenfy, she adds, takes the first new approach to schizophrenia treatment in decades. Farchione says this approval offers a new alternative to the antipsychotic medications people with schizophrenia have previously been prescribed. The FDA says schizophrenia can cause psychotic symptoms. These include hallucinations, such as hearing voices, difficulty controlling one's thoughts, and being suspicious of others. This personality disorder can also be associated with cognitive problems and difficulty with social interactions and motivation. About 1% of Americans have this illness, and globally it is one of the 15 leading causes of disability. Individuals with schizophrenia are at greater risk of dying at a younger age. Nearly 5% of those with the disorder die by suicide. The prescribing information includes warnings about what Cobenfy can cause. Visit fda.org for the list. The most common side effects of Cobenfy are nausea, indigestion, constipation, vomiting, hypertension, abdominal pain, diarrhea, increased heartbeat, dizziness, and gastroesophageal reflux disease. The approval of Cobenfy was granted to Bristol Myers Squibb Company. Rose Papa Angeles, Washington, D.C. for NET25 World News.
Malaysia is stepping up its tech game. Today, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim announced plans for a national cloud policy and new regulations to promote the ethical use of artificial intelligence. This move comes as global tech companies have been pouring investments into Malaysia over the past year, aiming to build critical infrastructure to meet the increasing demand for cloud and AI services. So what will this national cloud policy focus on?
Now, we also aim to position Malaysia as a hub for generative AI, and investments from tech partners will be critical in building a robust and secure digital infrastructure.
To coordinate these initiatives, the government will also establish a national AI office. This office will oversee the completion of a 5-year technology action plan and develop a regulatory framework to encourage the use of ethical and sustainable AI, all within the next 12 months. Now, that's not all. Google recently announced a multi-year partnership with a local tech firm to provide sovereign cloud services in Malaysia.
And it will contribute to inclusive growth opportunities for Malaysia, for the people here, for businesses here, including bolstering environmental sustainability and widening digital skills tools. As AI-powered technology continues to transform across Malaysia, we anticipate this investment will generate more than 26,500 additional jobs and contribute more than $3 billion to Malaysia's GDP.
This collaboration is expected to create 26,500 jobs and add over $3 billion to the Malaysian economy by 2030. And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.